Hello, everyone. Um, we hope you've been enjoying the powerful prayers we've been sharing with you and the stories we've been telling on the channel. So, like we mentioned in our description, this channel is mostly to tell stories. We tell our children stories every single day, stories of the apostles and stories of the fathers, the patriarchs, Abraham, how the world was formed and all. And recently we were thinking perhaps we can share with people, as many persons as possible, the gospel, the Bible itself, and see if through the Holy Scriptures we can complete the Catholic, Pastoral Edition. So we'll begin. In the beginning, when God began to create the heavens, the earth had no form and was void. Darkness was over the deep, and the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day and the darkness night. There was evening and morning. The first day, God said, "Let there be a firm ceiling between the waters, and let it separate waters from waters." So God made the ceiling and separated the waters below it from the waters above it. And so it was. God called the firm ceiling sky. There was evening and there was morning the second day. God said, "Let the waters below the sky be gathered together in one place, and let dry land appear." And so it was. God called the dry land earth, and the waters gathered together he called seas. God saw that it was good. God said, "Let the earth produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants, fruit trees bearing fruit with seed, each according to its kind, upon the earth." And so it was. The earth produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kind, and trees producing fruit which has seed according to their kind. God saw that it was good. There was evening and there was morning. God said, "Let there be lights in the ceiling of the sky to separate day from night and to serve as signs for the seasons, days and years. And let these lights in the sky shine above the earth." And so it was. God therefore made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the smaller light to govern the night. And God made the stars as well. God placed them in the ceiling of the sky to give light on the earth, and to separate the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good. There was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. God said, "Let the water teem with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth under the ceiling of the sky." God created the great monsters of the sea and all living animals, those that teem in the waters according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and increase in number, fill the waters of the sea, and let the birds increase on the earth." There was evening and there was morning, the fifth day. God said, "Let the earth produce living animals according to their kind, cattle, creatures that move along the ground, wild animals according to their kind." So it was. God created the wild animals according to their kind, and everything that creeps along the ground according to its kind. God saw that it was good. God said, "Let us make man in our own image, to our likeness. Let them rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the cattle, over the wild animals, and over all creeping things that crawl along the ground." So God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, over every living creature that moves on the ground." God said, "I have given you every seed-bearing plant which is on the face of the earth, and every tree that bears fruit with seed. It will be for your food, to every wild animal." Yes, I am reading the Bible.
Can we read the Bible?
Yes, you can come join me. God said, "I have given you every seed-bearing plant which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree that bears fruits with seed. It will be for your food. To every wild animal, to every bird of the sky, to everything that creeps along the ground, to everything that has breath of life, I give every green plant for food." And so it was. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. There was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. And so we've completed the chapter 1 of Genesis. We're hoping that we'll go through the entire chapters of the Bible, Genesis first, and then up to Revelation. Again, we're using the Christian Community Bible, Catholic Pastoral Edition. So we're moving now to chapter 2. So thank you, Marlena, Estrella, for joining, and Abib. Thank you so much. Like we mentioned when we started, our goal is to tell stories. We tell stories to our kids and to our friends. We love reading the Bible with them and sharing these stories. And we were thinking that perhaps we could also do same for the many persons who watch some of our videos and our storytelling, and then read directly from the scripture without the animation, so we can tell these stories and maybe read the Bible together for the rest of the year. We hope to every day have 1 hour of Bible reading. Wherever we stop, we continue the next time we have a live until we read the entire Bible together. And we hope that when we're done with one version of the Bible, we pick up a different version and then we go through, and that way we can all read the Bible as many times over and over again together. So we are now in chapter 2 of the book of Genesis. Hi, Catherine. That was the way the sky and the earth were created, and all their vast array. By the seventh day, the work God has done was completed. And he rested on the seventh day from all the work he had done. And God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on that day he rested from all the work he had done in his creation. These are the successive steps in the creation of the heavens and the earth. I will tell the story of Eden. On the day that Yahweh God made the earth and the heavens, there was not yet on the earth any shrub of the fields, nor had any plant yet sprung up. For Yahweh God had not made it rain on the earth, and there was no man to till the earth. But a mist went up from the earth and watered the surface of the earth. Then Yahweh God formed man, dust, drawn from the clay, and breathed into his nostrils a breath of life, and man became alive with breath. God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he placed man whom he had created. Yahweh God caused to grow from the ground every kind of tree that is pleasing to see and good to eat. Also the tree of life in the middle of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A river flowed from Eden to water the garden, and from there it divided to form 4 main streams. The name of the first river is Pishon. It is the one that flows around all the country of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that country is good. Bdellium and onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one that flows around all the land of Cush. The name of the third river is Tigris. It is the one that flows to the east of Assyria. The fourth river is the Euphrates. Yahweh God took man and placed him in the Garden of Eden to till it and take care of it. Then Yahweh God gave an order to man, saying, "You may eat of every tree in the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you will not eat. For on the day you eat of it, you will die." Yahweh God said, "It is not good for man to be alone.
Your phone's still on.
I will give him a helper who will be like him." Then Yahweh God formed from the earth all the beasts of the field and all the birds of the air, and brought them to man to see what he would call them. And whatever man called every living creature, that was its name. So man gave names to all the cattle, the birds of the air, and to every beast of the field. But he did not find among them a helper like himself. Then Yahweh God caused a deep sleep to come over man, and he fell asleep. He took one of his ribs and filled its place with flesh. The rib that Yahweh God had taken from man, he formed into a woman and brought her to the man. The man then said, "Now this is the bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken from man. That is why man leaves his father and mother and is attached to his wife, and with her becomes one flesh. Both the man and his wife were naked and were not ashamed." So now we move to chapter 3 of the book of Genesis. Now the serpent was the most crafty of all the wild creatures that Yahweh God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat the fruit of the trees in the garden, but of the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, God said, you must not eat, and you must not touch it, or you will die." The serpent said to the woman, "You will not die, of course. But God knows that the day you eat it, your eyes will be opened and will be like gods, knowing good and evil." The woman saw that the fruit was good to eat and pleasant to the eyes, and ideal for gaining knowledge. She took its fruit and ate it, and gave some to her husband who was with her. He ate it. Then their eyes were opened, and both of them knew they were naked. So they sewed leaves of fig tree together and made themselves loincloths. They heard the voice of Yahweh God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and then the man and his wife hid from Yahweh God among the trees of the garden. Yahweh God called the man, saying to him, "Where are you?" He said, "I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." God said, "Who told you you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree I ordered you not to eat?" The man answered, "The woman you put with me gave me the fruit from the tree, and I ate it." God said to the woman, "What have you done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." Yahweh God said to the serpent, "Since you have done that, be cursed among all the cattle and wild beasts. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust all the days of your life. I will make you enemies, you and the woman, your offspring and her offspring. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." To the woman, God said, "I will increase your suffering in childbearing, and you will give birth to your children in pain. You will be dependent on your husband, and he will lord it over you." To the man, he said, "Because you have listened to your wife and have eaten from the tree of which I forbade you to eat, cursed be the soil because of you. In suffering you will provide food for yourself from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorn and thistle for you, and you will eat plants of the field. With sweat on your face you will eat your bread until you return to clay, since it was from clay that you were taken. For you are dust, and to dust you shall return." The man called his wife by name of Eve, because she was the mother of all the living. Yahweh God made garments of skin for the man and wife, and with these he clothed them. Then Yahweh God said, "Man has now become like one of us, making himself judge of good and evil. Let him not stretch out his hand to take and eat from the tree of life as well and live forever." So God cast him from the Garden of Eden to till the soil from which he had been made. And after having driven the man out, God posted cherubim and a flaming sword that kept turning at the east of the Garden of Eden to guard the way to the tree of life. And so ends our chapter 3 of the book of Genesis. And now to chapter 4, which is the story of Cain and Abel, and also the descendants of Cain and Seth. Adam had intercourse with Eve, his wife. She became pregnant and gave birth to a child. She named him Cain, for she said, "I have got a man with help from Yahweh." She later gave birth to Abel, his brother. Abel was a shepherd and kept flocks, and Cain tilled the soil. It happened after a time that Cain brought fruits of the soil as an offering to Yahweh. Abel, for his part, brought the firstborn of his flock, and some fat as well. Now Yahweh was well pleased with Abel and his offering, but towards Cain and his offering he showed no pleasure. This made Cain very angry and downcast. Then Yahweh said to Cain, "Why are you angry and downcast? If you do right, why do you not look up? But if you are not doing what is right, sin is lurking at the door. It is striving to get you, but you must control it." Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go to the fields." Once there, Cain turned on his brother Abel and killed him. Yahweh said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" He answered, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" Yahweh asked, "What have you done?" "Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now be cursed and driven from the ground that has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood that your hand has shed. When you till the soil, it will no longer yield you its produce. You will be fugitive, wandering on the earth." Cain said to Yahweh, "My punishment is greater than I can bear. See, today you drive me from this land. I must hide from you and be a wanderer and be a fugitive on earth. And it will so happen that whoever meets me will kill me." Yahweh said to him, "Well then, whoever kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times. And Yahweh put a mark on Cain to prevent anyone who met him from killing him. Cain then went from Yahweh's presence and settled in the land of Nod to the east of Eden. I'll deviate a little from here. Reading this part of the scripture, I'm thinking to myself, what exactly did God just do? Right? It was punishing Cain for killing his brother Abel, whose blood cries out to heaven. But God was also merciful to Cain. Even though now Abel is dead, he was still merciful to him by punishing anybody who tries to kill Cain 7 times more than he is punishing Cain. God is both merciful and just. We cannot really exhaust how merciful he is, or his thoughts. And that's why sometimes I think of sorry, I'm deviating, but it just struck me, and I'm thinking of the book of Jeremiah, where I think 29:11, where the Bible tells us that my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. You don't know my thoughts, because the thoughts of God are not the thoughts of man. This is beautiful to see God's mercy and justice at the same time. And now we go to discuss the descendants of Cain and Seth. This is chapter 4 of Genesis, to be 17 to 26, about thereabout. So Cain had intercourse with his wife. She conceived and gave birth to Enoch. As he was building a town, he called it by the name of his son, Enoch. A son, Irad, was born to Enoch. Irad became father of Mehujael, and Mehujael became a father of Methuselah, and Methuselah, which some scriptures call Methuselah, became the father of Lamech. And Lamech had 2 wives, Ada and Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal. He was father to those who live in tents and keep flocks. His brother was Jubal. He was father to all those who play the lyre and flute. And for Zillah, she gave birth to Tubal-Cain, forger of tools in bronze and iron. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, "Hear my voice, wives of Lamech. Listen to what I say. For I killed a man for wounding me, and a boy for striking me. If Cain will be avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. Adam again had intercourse with his wife, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth. For she said, Yahweh has given me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. To Seth also a son was born, and he called him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of Yahweh. So this ends the chapter 4 of the book of Genesis. So remember, for those persons just joining, our goal is to read the book of Genesis to Revelation in the live shorts. What we do in Christian Bible Heroes channel is mostly tell the stories, Bible stories. We enjoy telling those stories to our children, reading the Bible from for our children, and then my wife and I started the channel to tell that particular story in animated form, because we thought, okay, it was quite popular, and then our young ones would love to read to watch the stories that we tell them enacted, right? And then we're thinking that, but more persons might actually also benefit from these stories told them directly from the scriptures. And so we started today telling these stories by reading the Bible, and our hope is to read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. We've completed Genesis chapter 1 to Genesis chapter 4, which we just completed now. We're about to go to Genesis chapter 5, which will be the story of the descendants of Adam. I hope you stayed, and I hope you are blessed by this story we share, which is really the Word of God from His Bible. We're using the Christian Community Bible, Catholic Pastoral Edition, and we hope that you are blessed by joining us in the story. The descendants of Adam. This is the account of Adam's descendants. When God created Adam, He made him in the likeness of God. Male and female He created them. He blessed them and called them man on the day they were created. Adam was 130 years old when he became father of a son born in his own likeness, in his own image, and he named him Seth. After the birth of Seth, Adam lived for 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Adam lived 930 years. Then he died. When Seth was 105, he became father of Enosh. After the birth of Enosh, Seth lived 807 years. He had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Seth lived 912 years. Then he died. When Enosh was 90 years old, he became the father of Canaan. After the birth of Canaan, Enosh lived 815 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enosh lived 905 years. Then he died. When Canaan was 70 years old, he became father of Mahalalel. After the birth of Mahalalel, Canaan lived 840 years. And he had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Canaan lived 910 years. Then he died. When Mahalalel was 65, he became the father of Jared. After that, Mahalalel lived 830 years and had other sons and daughters. All the days of Mahalalel were 895 years. Then he died. When Jared was 162, he became father of Enoch. After the birth of Enoch, Jared lived 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Jared lived 962 years. Then he died. When Enoch was 65, he became the father of Methuselah. After the birth of Methuselah, Enoch walked with God 300 years, and he had other sons and daughters. In all, Enoch lived 365 years. After Enoch walked with God, he disappeared because God took him up. When Methuselah was 187, he became father of Lamech. After the birth of Lamech, Methuselah lived 782 years, and he had other sons and daughters. In all, Methuselah lived 969 years. Then he died. Lamech was 182 when he became the father of a son and named him Noah. For he said, "He will console us in the hard toil and suffering of our hands, because of the soil that was caused by Yahweh." After the birth of Noah, Lamech lived 595 years, and he had other sons and daughters. In all, Lamech lived 777 years. Then he died. When Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Sem, Ham, and Japheth. So that ends our chapter 5 of the book of Genesis. And now on to chapter 6. When people began to increase on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that men's daughters were very beautiful. So they married those they chose. Yahweh then said, "My spirit will not remain in man forever, for he is flesh. His span of life will be 120 years. At that time there were giants on the earth, and afterwards as well, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them. These were the heroes of old, men of renown. Yahweh saw how great was the wickedness of man on the earth, and that evil was always the only thought of his heart. Yahweh regretted having created man on the earth, and his heart grieved. I will deviate a little again. I'm not sure if this is the only part where God's heart grieve, because I just remembered because we shared a story recently of Lazarus in John 11:35. Jesus wept, and this story tied directly that God grieved in this case for creating man because of the wickedness that has beclouded the judgment and thoughts of man. But in the recent story of Lazarus, which we shared on our channel, Jesus wept for the love he had for Lazarus before performing that particular miracle. So God wept. God shows compassion. In this case, compassion and sadness for creating man, that so much so he grieved. And in John 11:35, where he wept losing his son, he also showed compassion in that case. So some of the things we've learned from this particular story, we've all shared from Genesis 1 up to now that we're in Genesis 6, into the story of the flood. We see that God is compassionate, right, and is loving, right? It's so beautiful to see, and share the story, the story of the scripture with you. He said, I will destroy man whom I created, and blot out from the face of the earth, and blot him out from the face of the earth, as well as the beasts, creeping creatures, and birds, for I am sorry I made them. But Noah was pleasing to God. This is the story of Noah. Noah was a just man, blameless among the people of his time. Excuse me. A man who walked with God. Noah became the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth became corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw the earth and saw it was corrupt, for corrupt indeed was the way of all mortals. Yahweh said to Noah, I have in mind to destroy all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. This is why I will destroy them, and with them the earth. As for you, build an ark of cypress wood. You will make rooms in the ark and coat it with pitch inside and outside. This is the way you will do it. The length of the ark, 450 feet. The width, 75 feet. And the height, 45 feet. You will put a roof on the ark and finish it within 18 inches from the top. Put a door in the side of the ark and have lower, middle, and upper decks. I am about to bring flood waters on the earth, to destroy the earth, to destroy all life under the heavens. Every creature that has breath of life, everything on earth will perish. But I will establish my covenant with you. You shall come into the ark, you, your wife, your sons, and your sons' wives with you. You shall bring into the ark 2 of every kind of living thing, male and female, to keep them alive with you. Of the birds, the animals, and all creeping things on the ground, according to their kind, 2 of every sort shall come in to be kept alive with you. Take with you every sort of food that is eaten. Make a store of it, and it will be food for you and them. And Noah did all as God had commanded him. So now we read chapter 7 of the book of Genesis. Yahweh said to Noah, go into the ark, you and all your household, for I see that you are just in this generation. Of all the clean animals, you are to take with you 7 of each kind, male and female, and a pair of unclean animals, a male and a female. In the same way, for the birds of the air, take 7 and 7, male and female, to keep their kind alive over all the earth. For in 7 days I will send rain on the earth. For 40 days and 40 nights I will blot out from the face of the earth all the living creatures I have created. Noah did all as Yahweh had commanded. Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters covered the earth. So Noah went into the ark with his children, his wife and his sons, wives to escape, and his son's wife to escape the waters of the flood. Clean animals and also unclean birds and all that crawls on the earth went into the ark with Noah. They went 2 and 2, male and female, as God had commanded Noah. And after 7 days, the waters of the flood were over the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month and on the 17th day of the month, all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and there was a downpour on the earth lasting 40 days and 40 nights. On that same day, Noah went into the ark, as well as Shem, Ham, and Japheth, his sons, and his wife, and his daughters-in-law. All the animals according to their kind also entered into the ark. All the cattle, all the creeping things that crawl on the earth, and all the birds according to their kind, all that flies and everything with wings. They came to Noah in the ark 2 by 2, all creatures that had the breath of life in them, and they that went in were male and female, just as God had commanded. Then Yahweh closed the door on Noah. The flood lasted for 40 days on the earth. The waters rose and lifted the ark and raised it above the earth. The waters rose and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the waters. The water rose more and more above the earth, and all the high mountains under the heavens were submerged. The waters had risen and covered the mountains to a depth of more than 20 feet. Every living thing that moved on the earth died. Birds, cattle, animals, everything that swarmed on the earth, and all humankind. All on the face of the earth that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living being on the face of the earth, humans and animals and creatures that crawl and the birds of the air were wiped off the earth. Only Noah was left, and those that were with him in the ark. Then the fountains of the deep and the floodgates of the heavens were closed, and the downpour from the heavens held back. The waters receded from the earth, and after 150 days, the waters had abated. In the 7th month, in the 17th day of the month, the ark rested on Mount Ararat. The waters continued to recede until the 10th month. On the first day of the 10th month, the mountain tops could be seen. At the end of the 40 days, Noah opened the window of the ark that he had built and let the raven out. This went off and kept flying to and fro until the waters had dried up from the earth. Then Noah let out the dove to see if the waters were receding from the earth. But the dove could not find a place to set its foot, and flew back to him in the ark of the waters, still covered the surface of the whole earth. But the dove could not find a place to set its foot, and flew back to him in the ark, for the waters still covered the surface of the whole earth. So Noah stretched out his hand, took hold of it, and brought it back to himself in the ark. He waited some more days and again sent the dove from the ark. This time the dove came back to him in the evening with a fresh olive branch in its beak. Then Noah knew the waters had receded from the earth. He waited 7 more days and let the dove loose, but it did not return to him anymore. In the year 601, in the first month, on the first day of the month, the waters dried up from the earth. Noah then removed the covering from the ark and looked out and saw that the surface of the earth was dry. On the 27th day, of the second month, the earth was dry. Then God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife, your sons and their wives with you. Bring out with you all flesh, that is, all the animals who are with you, all things of flesh, birds, cattle, and all that crawls on the earth. Let them abound on the earth, be fruitful, and increase in number." So Noah went out with his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives with him. All the animals, all the birds, all that creeps on the earth came out of the ark, one kind after another. Noah built an altar to Yahweh, and taking some of the clean animals and all the clean birds, he offered burnt offerings on it. Yahweh smelled the pleasing aroma and said to himself, "Never again will I curse the earth because of man, even though his heart is set on evil from childhood. Never again will I strike down every living creature as I have done. As long as the earth lasts, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease to be." And so comes the end of our chapter 8. And now we move on to Genesis chapter 9. We're using the Christian Community Bible version. God blessed Noah and his sons, and he said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth. Fear and dread of you will be in all the animals of the earth, and in all the birds of the air, upon everything that creeps on the ground, and all the fish of the sea. They are given to you. Everything that moves and lives shall be food for you. As I gave you the green plants, I have now given you everything. Only you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is its blood." But I will also demand a reckoning for your lifeblood. I will demand it from every animal and from man too. I will demand a reckoning for the life of his fellow man. He who sheds the blood of man shall have his blood shed by man. For in the image of God has God made man. As for you, be fruitful and increase, abound on the earth, and be master of it. God spoke to Noah and his son. See, I am making a covenant with you and with your descendants after you. Also, with every living animal with you, birds, cattle, that is, every living creature of all the earth that came out of the ark. I establish my covenant with you. Never again will all life be cut off by the waters of a flood, and never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth. God said, "This is the sign of the covenant I make between me and you, and every animal living with you, for all future generations. I set my bow in the clouds, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth, and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember the covenant between me and you, and every kind of living creature, so that never again will flood waters destroy all flesh. When the rainbow is in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of every kind that exists on the earth." God said to Noah, "This is the sign of the covenant I have made between me and all that has life on earth." The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham is the ancestor of Canaan. These were Noah's 3 sons, and from them the whole earth was peopled. Noah, a man of the soil, set about planting a vineyard. He drank the wine and became drunk and lay uncovered in the middle of his tent. When Ham, Canaan's ancestor, saw his father's nakedness, he told his 2 brothers outside the tent. But Shem and Japheth took a cloak, put it on their shoulders. The 2 of them then walked backwards and covered their father's nakedness. Their faces were turned away, and they did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah awoke from his wine, he knew what his youngest son had done to him. And he said, "Cursed be Canaan. He shall be his brother's meanest slave." He then added, "Blessed be Yahweh, God of Shem. Let Canaan be his slave. May God extend the territory of Japheth, and may he live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be his slave." Again, I'll tell the story, this particular path again, so you can take that prayer. Chapter 24 of verse 24 of Genesis chapter 9. When Noah woke up from his wine, he knew what his youngest son had done to him. And he said, "Cursed be Canaan. He shall be his brother's meanest slave." He then added, "Blessed be Yahweh, God of Shem. Let Canaan be his slave. May God extend the territory of Japheth, and may he live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be his slave." Noah lived 350 years after the flood. In all, Noah lived for 950 years. Then he died. chapter 10 of the book of Genesis. These are the descendants of Noah's sons: Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These are their sons who were born after the flood. Japheth's sons: Gomer, Magog, the Medes, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, Tiras. Gomer's sons: Ashkenaz, Riphath, Togarmah. Javan's sons: Elisha, Tarshish, the Kittim, the Danites. These were dispersed and peopled the islands of the nations. These were Japheth's sons, according to their countries, and each of their languages, according to their tribes and their nations. Ham's sons: Cush, Mizraim, Put, Canaan. Cush's sons: Seba, Havilah, Sabtha, Rama, Sabtheka. Rama's sons: Sheba, Dedan. Cush became the father of Nimrod, who was the first great ruler on the earth. He was a mighty hunter in the eyes of Yahweh. Hence the saying, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter in the eyes of Yahweh. The beginning of his empire was Babel, with Erech and Akkad, all of them in the land of Shinar. From this country came Ashur, the builder of Nineveh, Rehoboth, Kala, and Racine, between Nineveh and Kala. This is a great city. Mizraim became the father of the people of Lod, of Anam, Lehab, Naphthah, Pathros, Cuslo, and Capthor, from which the Philistines came. Canaan became the father of Simon, his firstborn, the Hittites, and the Jebusites, the Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Arkites, Sinites, Avadites, Zemarites, Hamathites. Later, the Canaanite tribes scattered. The Canaanites' frontier stretched from Sidon in the direction of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, and as far as Lisha. These were Ham's sons, according to their tribes and their languages, according to their countries and nations. These were also children born to Shem, the ancestor of all the sons of Eber, who are the Hebrews, and the elder brother of Japheth. Shem's sons are Elam, Ashur, Arpachshad, Lud, Aram. Aram's sons are Uz, Hol, Gether, and Mash. Arpachshad became the father of Shelah, and Shelah became the father of Eber. To Eber were born two sons. The first was called Peleg, because it was in his time that the earth was divided, and his brother was called Joktan. Joktan became the father of Almodad, Sheleph, Hazamapheth, Jerah, Hadoram, Uzal, Diklah, Obal, Abimel, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, Jobab. All these are the sons of Joktan. They occupied a stretch of country from Mesh in the direction of Sephah to the eastern mountain range. These were Shem's sons according to their tribes and languages, and according to their countries and nations. These were the tribes of Noah's sons according to their descendants and their nations. From these came the dispersal of the nations over the earth after the flood. And so end Genesis chapter 10. And now we move to Genesis chapter 11. The whole world had one language and a common speech. As people moved from east, they found a plain in the country of Shinar, where they settled. They said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them in fire." They used brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. They said also, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower, with its top reaching heaven, so that we may become a great people and not be scattered over the face of the earth." Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower that the sons of man were building. And Yahweh said, "They are one people and they have one language. If they carry this through, nothing they decide to do from now on will be impossible. Come, let us go down and confuse their language, so that they will no longer understand each other." So Yahweh scattered them over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it was called Babel, because there Yahweh confused the language of the whole earth. And from there Yahweh scattered them over the whole face of the earth. These are Shem's descendants. When Shem was 100 years old, he became the father of Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. After the birth of Arphaxad, Shem lived 500 years, and he had more sons and daughters. When Arphaxad was 35 years old, he became the father of Shelah. Arphaxad lived 403 years, and he had more sons and daughters. When Shelah was 30 years old, he became the father of Eber. After the birth of Eber, Shelah lived 403 years, and he had more sons and daughters. When Eber was 34 years old, he became the father of Peleg. After the birth of Peleg, Eber lived 430 years, and he had more sons and daughters. When Peleg was 30 years old, he became the father of Reu. Peleg lived 209 years, and he had more sons and daughters. When Reu was 32 years old, he became the father of Serug. Reu lived 207 years, and he had more sons and daughters. When Serug was 30 years old, he became the father of Nahor. After the birth of Nahor, Serug lived 200 years, and he had more sons and daughters. When Nahor was 29 years old, he became the father of Terah. After the birth of Terah, Nahor lived 119 years, and he had more sons and daughters. When Terah was 70 years old, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. These are Terah's descendants. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran became the father of Lot. Haran died before the father of Terah in his native land, Ur of the Chaldeans. Abram and Nahor both married. Abram's wife was called Sarai. Nahor's wife was called Milcah, the daughter of Haran, father of Milcah and Iscah. Sarai was barren, having no child. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law, the wife of Abram, and made them leave Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. But on arrival in Haran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years, then he died in Haran. And so now we go over the book of Genesis, chapter 12. Yahweh said to Abram, "Leave your country, your family, and your father's house. For the land I will show you, I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And in you, all peoples of the earth will be blessed." So Abram went as Yahweh had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abram took Sarai, his wife, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran. They set out for the land of Canaan. They arrived at Canaan. Abram traveled through the country as far as Shechem to the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. Yahweh appeared to Abram and said, "To your descendants I will give this land." There he built an altar to Yahweh, who had appeared to him. From there he went on to the mountains east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. Excuse me. There also he built an altar to Yahweh and called on the name of Yahweh. Then Abram set out in the direction of Negeb. There was famine in the land, and Abraham went to Egypt to stay there for some time. For the famine was severe in the land. Just as he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarai, his wife, "Now I know you are a beautiful woman. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'That is his wife.' They will then kill me, but they will let you live. Say that you are my sister, so that they treat me well on account of you, and my life will be spared because of you." Excuse me. In fact, when Abram arrived in Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her to Pharaoh. The woman was taken into Pharaoh's house, and because of her, he dealt well with Abram. He received sheep, cattle, donkeys, maidservants, she-asses, and camels. But Yahweh inflicted severe plagues on Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why did you say, 'She's my sister,' so that I took her for my wife? Now here is your wife. Take her and go." And Pharaoh gave orders to his men regarding Abram, and they sent him on his way with his wife and all that was his. Abram went up from Egypt to the Negeb, he and his wife, with all he had, and Lot with him. Now Abram was very rich in flocks, silver, and gold. As he journeyed on, he went from the Negeb as far as Bethel to the place where he pitched his tent between Bethel and Ai, at the spot where he had formerly made an altar and called on the name of Yahweh. Lot went with Abram, also had flocks. Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks, cattle, and tents. The land was not sufficient to allow them to stay together, for their possessions were too great for them to live together. A quarrel arose between the herdsmen of Abram's flock and those of Lot. The Canaanites and the Perizzites were living in the land at the time. Abram said to Lot, "Don't let there be dispute between you and me, nor between my herdsmen and yours, since we are brothers. Isn't the whole land there before you? Let us part company. If you go to the left, I will go to the right. If you go to the right, I will go to the left." Lot looked up and saw the whole valley of the Jordan, how well it was watered. Before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, this was like one of Yahweh's garden, like the country of Egypt on coming to Zoar. Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley and journeyed eastward. In this way, they separated from each other. Abram settled in the country of Canaan, while Lot lived among the towns of the plain and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the people of Sodom were wicked, sinning greatly against Yahweh. Yahweh said to Abram, after Lot had left him, "Raise your eyes and look from where you are, towards the north, the south, the east, and the west. All the land you see I will give to you and your descendants forever. I will make your descendants as dust of the earth. If the grains of the dust can be counted, then your descendants may be counted. Come, travel through the length and breadth of the land, for it is to you that I am giving it." So Abram moved his tent and came to live by the oak of Mamre at Hebron. There he built an altar to Yahweh. At the time of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasa, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim. These kings made war on Bera, king of Sodom, Birsha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemeba, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar. All these joined forces in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they had been dominated by Chedorlaomer. But in the 13th year, they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the king who were his allies came and fought and subdued the Rephaim in Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and the Zuzim in Ham, the Emin, the Shavekiriatim, and the Horites in their Mount Seir, as far as El Paran, which is near the desert. Then they turned back and came to the spring of judgment, that is Kadesh, and subdued all the country of the Amalekites, as well as that of the Amorites who lived in Hazazon Tamar. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and took up battle positions in the valley of Siddim against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Gohim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasa. 4 kings against 5. Now, there were many bitumen pits in the valley of Siddim. And as the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into them, and the rest took refuge in the mountains. The enemy took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah, all their provisions, and went off. They also took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, who lived in Sodom, and his possessions, and went off. One who escaped came to tell Abram the Hebrew, who was living by the oak of Mamre, the Amorite, the brother of Eshcol and of Anna. These were allies of Abram. As soon as Abram heard that his brother had been taken away captive, he assembled and led forth his trained men, born in his house. "318 men, and set off in pursuit as far as Dan. He grouped his forces against them by night, he and his servants, and routed and followed them to Hobah, north of Damascus. Then he brought back all his possessions, his kinsman Lot, and his possessions, together with the women and the people. On his return after defeating Chedorlaomer and the kings who were his allies, the king of Sodom came out to meet him in the valley of Shaveh, that is the valley of the king. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought bread and wine. He was a priest of God Most High, and he blessed Abram, saying, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, maker of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hands. And Abram gave him a 10th part of everything. The king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the people and keep the goods for yourself. Abram said to the king of Sodom, I raise my hand to Yahweh God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, to swear that not one thread or tongue or a sandal or anything that is yours would I take, lest you say, Abram became rich at my expense. I claim nothing for myself, only what the young men have eaten, and the share that is due to Anna, Eshcol, and Mamre, the men who came with me. And so ends chapter 14 of the book of Genesis. We will continue the next chapter in a following live. Thank you so much for joining us on this one. God bless you.